All right, so now we're going to talk about special right triangles. So there's two kinds of special right triangles. Ones that have the angles 45, 45, and 90, and then 30, 60, 90. Okay, so these triangles have specific relationships that you can use and you don't have to do Pythagorean theorem. So if we start with the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, this triangle right here, this 45, 45, 90 is an isosceles triangle. Since it's an isosceles triangle, that means A is equal to B. Okay, they're the same thing. They're the same length. So we could replace B squared with A squared because technically it's the same value. And then A squared plus A squared is 2A squared. Okay, and then if we're solving for c, we're going to take our square root. So c is going to be, and the square root of 2 we can't simplify, but the square root of a squared is just a. So we get a times the square root of 2 equals c. Okay, and we can say this in words too. This means the leg, right? A is one of our legs and they're the same length, so it doesn't matter which leg, times the square root of 2 is equal to your hypotenuse. Okay, so if you don't want to do Pythagorean theorem, you can use this relationship. Okay, now let's look at our 30, 60, 90 triangle. So to do this, we're going to make this into an isosceles triangle. Okay, so if you notice, now that we have this isosceles equilateral triangle, not isosceles. We're making this into an equilateral triangle. And so all of our sides have to be equal to each other, right? Equilateral triangle means all sides are equal. Now, if we're just looking at A right here, that's going to be half of the length of our C value, right? Because this whole thing is equal to C since it's an equilateral triangle. So that means A is half of C. So A equals 1/2 of C, or we could also write that 2A is equal to C, just so we don't have any fractions. Okay, so that's one of our relationships. And now we're going to look at our Pythagorean theorem one more time. And we are going to plug in 2A for C. Okay, make sure you have those parentheses. And then 2A squared is equal to 4A squared. Now we can subtract A squared. We get B squared is equal to 3A squared. And if we do our square roots, then B is going to be equal to A times the square root of 3. Okay, so these are our two relationships for this one, and again, we can write them in words. Our 2A equals C, that means, now we have to be careful because A is our short leg. With 30, 60, 90 triangles, we have a short leg and a long leg, B. So A is specifically our short leg, so if we do the short leg times 2, that's going to equal the hypotenuse. Okay, and then the one we solve for down here, B is our long leg. So if we do our long leg, that's going to be equal to A, the short leg, times the square root of 3. Okay, so those are our relationships for those. So let's do a couple examples. So for number 1, we have a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So that means we're using our hypotenuse is equal to the leg times the square root of 2. So we don't know our x value, that's our hypotenuse. So we're going to say x equals, now y right here is just the second leg. And we know with a 45, 45, 90 triangle, the two legs are the same. So y will be equal to 8 root 2. Okay, now to solve for x, we have our hypotenuse is equal to your leg, so 8 square root 2 times the square root of 2. So all we're doing is we're plugging x and 8 root 2 in for our hypotenuse and leg. Now, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, and 8 times 2 is 16. So our x equals 16. Okay, let's look at another example. On number 2, this time we're missing both of our legs. So we know our hypotenuse is 6. And then we know we're going to have our leg, we'll solve for x, times the square root of 2. We need to get rid of that square root of 2, so we're going to divide. So we have 6 root 2 equaling x. Now you have to be careful because we're going to have to rationalize this. Remember, you can't have square roots in the denominator. So we multiply by the square root of 2 over the square root of 2. Get 6 root 2 over 2. And 6 over 2 is 3. So 3 root 2 is equal to x. And that's also going to be equal to y, since they'll be the same, since we have that 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, now number 3 is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So remember our two equations, relationships that we have. The hypotenuse is the short leg times 2, and the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. So we're given our hypotenuse, so that means we need to start with our first relationship. We have 12 square root of 6 is equal to our short leg. Now is x or y going to be our short leg? X. So it's equal to x times 2. Divide the 2 out. 12 divided by 2 is 6, so we get 6 root 6 equaling x. And now we can find our long leg. So our long leg, y, is equal to our short leg, 6 root 6 times the square root of 3. Now when you're multiplying square roots, you just multiply them underneath each other. So 6 times 3 is 18. We need to check if we can simplify. 18 is 6 times 3. 6 is 2 times 3. We have a group of 3's. So we're going to get 3 root 2 times our 6. So y is going to be 18 root 2. Okay, let's try the next one. Let's see, I'm going to write our rules down here again. Hypotenuse is equal to short leg times 2, and long leg is equal to short leg times root 3. Okay, so this time we're given the short leg. So if we're looking for our hypotenuse first, our x value, we're going to do our short leg, 5 root 2 times 2. And we can't combine the 2 with the square root of 2, but we can with the 5, so we should get 10 root 2. Okay, and now for our long leg, y is going to equal our short leg, 5 root 2, times the square root of 3. Root 2 times root 3 is root 6, and that cannot be simplified. So we get 5 root 6. Okay, now try it. Pause your video, try number 5 on your own, and then press play when you've got your answers. Okay, so on number 5, we're given our long leg. So we know that 4 square root of 3 is our long leg, so that's going to be equal to the short leg, our x value, times the square root of 3. So let's divide away that square root 3. We get 4 equals x. So that means our short leg is 4. And now we need to find our hypotenuse, our y value. So it's our short leg, which is 4 times 2. So that's going to be 8. Okay, and that's it for special right triangles.